Eagles' Jordan Mailata will never forget Super Bowl loss. When the Philadelphia Eagles play the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football in Week 11, it will be extra personal for offensive tackle Jordan Mailata. Mailata and the rest of the team have had to sit with the pain associated with remembering last season's Super Bowl loss to Kansas City. He's hardly shying away about how he feels headed into Monday. I think for me, it's a little bit more personal than some of my teammates just because the last time we faced them, Mailata said via 94 WIP. But we're always going to keep the main thing, and that's going 1-0 every week and sticking to our game plan. But I'm taking it personal. I know Nick's gonna come in this week and say same game, same process, stick to the process, but I'll never forget that red and gold confetti falling on my head. I'll never forget those emotions from that day. I haven't even watched the film from that game. Besides getting the corrections from Stout, I haven't rewatched the game. Mailata and the Eagles lost Super Bowl 57 to Kansas City 38-35 on a game-winning field goal from Harrison Butker. While the Chiefs players celebrated on the field, many of Philadelphia's players, including Mailata, took in the moment as confetti rained on the victors and losers alike. Now, the Eagles will have a chance to move one step closer to redemption and get a little bit of revenge along the way. The ultimate goal of the season is to win the Super Bowl, which seems to be all that Philadelphia has its eyes on this year, but one of the teams standing in its way is Kansas City. When will these two teams face off in Kansas City on Monday? It could be a preview of a repeat Super Bowl matchup from the year prior. Kickoff from Arrowhead Stadium is set for 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Rookie Jalen Carter earns impressive midseason accolades from NFL analysts. As the 8-1 Eagles prepare for a deep playoff run, one of the reasons why Eagles fans and NFL critics are predicting the Eagles to soar high in the upcoming playoffs is the standout play of rookie defensive tackle, rookie Jalen Carter. Rookie Jalen Carter continues to impress. NFL analysts have been consistent in recent days in grading Jalen Carter's performance and ability to close the gap and wreak havoc. Carter has been so dominant on the field that Eagles general manager Howie Roseman considers Carter a home run addition, and Eagles fans continue to drive up sports betting in Pennsylvania to support what NFL analysts consider as the unanimous Defensive Rookie of the Year. For Eagles fans and football fans, it might seem perplexing now that at one time, multiple Georgia coaches declined to go to bat for Carter during the pre-draft process, in part because they had grown disenchanted with his practice habits and attitude. But his work ethic has drawn strong reviews from his current teammates and coaches. The Eagles felt they were uniquely equipped to help Carter stay on the right path thanks to the presence of veteran leaders like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. Cox has assumed the lead role as mentor. Brandon Graham had this to say about playing with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. "I tell them boys, Carter and Davis, keep feeding off each other, keep motivating each other, bring each other along, and follow the right ones. Like I told them, they should be commanding a lot of money. They shouldn't be on the same team, but General Manager Howie Roseman is a magician. He made it work." Under Cox's and Graham's tutelage, rookie Jalen Carter has immensely worked on his 1-3 technique to become an absolute defensive monster and defensive coordinator's nightmare, so much so that Carter is drawing early comparisons to the late, great defensive lineman Reggie White, who won the 1985 Defensive Player of the Year for the Eagles. Even though Cox missed Sunday's game with a back ailment, Carter responded with his biggest game of the year to lead the Eagles to a convincing 28-23 win against NFL East rival Dallas Cowboys. Throughout the game, Cox moved along the line, giving the Cowboys new looks and the NFL glimpses of future dominant outings to come. Jalen Carter's coming out party. Against the Cowboys, standout rookie Jalen Carter posted 4 sacks in a recent game, showcasing his impact on the defensive side of the ball. He played the 4th most snaps among Philadelphia's defensive linemen in a game against Dallas. Throughout his rookie campaign, Carter has been a significant contributor to the defense, playing close to 70% of the team's defensive plays in a specific game and nearly 50% for the season despite missing a game. And as Carter improves with each passing game, you can expect the Eagles to improve his workload, as an obvious sign of confidence that he is the right man to anchor the defense for years to come. Why Eagles losing Nakobe Dean is being overlooked by many. While Nakobe Dean hadn't seized the Philadelphia Eagles' Mike linebacker position as some had hoped by turning into the same kind of playmaker he was in college at Georgia, the emerging starter's impending second stint on injured reserve has gotten lost in the sauce during the team's bye week. A fractured forearm to star tight end Dallas Goedert and the realization that veteran linebacker Nicholas Morrow has been more impactful during his opportunities at Mike are the culprits when it comes to downplaying Dean's absence due to a Lisfranc sprain. It's hard to argue with the sentiment that Zach Cunningham and Morrow are the best tandem defensive coordinator Sean Desai can use at the position right now. That said, the upside of Dean was enough for Philadelphia to overlook that reality despite the Super Bowl window being wide open for the Eagles. All NFL teams always have to service two masters, the present and the future, to a certain degree. That scale fluctuates depending on where one is in what is always a cyclical industry, though. For a rebuilding team, the decision of Dean versus Morrow would always be an easy one because the goal is the future. The 8-1 Eagles have the best record in the NFL, however, and the meritocracy argument has more merit for them. According to Pro Football Focus, Morrow has been the 11th best off-ball linebacker in the NFL over his 371 snaps, which started in Week 2 when Dean injured his other foot in the season-opening win over the New England Patriots. This forced the second-year pro to miss the next 4 games. Dean has graded in at number 59 with 182 reps per PFF. Morrow, who signed a 1-year deal with no guaranteed money as a free agent, told SI.com's Eagles Today that he wanted to play behind the Eagles' imposing defensive front after toiling behind arguably the NFL's worst during the 2022 season with Chicago. Rewind to the summer, however, and the Eagles felt the need to bring in Cunningham and fellow veteran Myles Jack, who ultimately retired, because the confidence wasn't there with Morrow or Christian Ellis, a valued special teamer. Morrow was actually released at the cut to 53 on August 29 and took a few days to consider his options before returning to the Philadelphia practice squad on September 4. Only when Dean got hurt against the Pats was Morrow promoted to the 53-man roster, and the veteran quickly solidified that roster spot. Despite the stellar play of Morrow in Dean's absence, the Eagles were intent on getting back to their plan in the middle when Dean returned against the New York Jets on October 15. The two essentially split time against the Jets, with Morrow getting the slight edge as Dean worked his way back into football shape, a 51-49 split from a percentage standpoint. From there, Dean spiked to 61% and 69% before being injured again versus the Cowboys. The Eagles were again trying to serve two different masters in a more micro sense, acknowledging Dean was still their guy while also validating Morrow's on-field performance by keeping him in the mix. With the decision made for them now, it's easy for Desai with Morrow and Cunningham set to be the two linebacker moving forward and throughout the playoffs, but that's at least 8 games that the Eagles hope will turn into 11 at a very physical position. And that means the Eagles are one snap away from Ellis at off-ball LB, a major reason the team kicked the tires on Anthony Barr earlier this week before the veteran decided a return trip to Minnesota was a better option. Dean may have not lived up to some expectations from some unrealistic observers early on, but that doesn't mean he wasn't an important part of the defense despite his projected role as the 3-down green being scaled back. The margin for error at the position is now razor-thin for Philadelphia. Eagles, Jalen Hurts' knee injury is hurting run game. Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has been playing with a banged-up knee over the last 5 games, and while his injury hasn't been affecting him in the pocket, it has been holding him back from running. Head coach Nick Sirianni would say otherwise, that the run game is doing just fine. However, numbers don't lie. I think the run game is executing differently than what you've seen, Sirianni said following the Eagles' win over the Cowboys. Again, when you just look at a stat book, you're not going to get that information exactly the way it is, right? So, we run a jet sweep to DeAndre that goes for 22 yards, that counted as a pass. The Eagles started the season off hot on the ground, averaging 4.9 yards per carry and 185.7 yards per game through the first 3 weeks. Since then, they have been averaging 3.4 yards per carry and 101.7 yards per game. Hurts only rushed for 36 yards against Dallas and was super hesitant versus Washington the week before as he only added 6 extra yards on the ground.